Chapter 6. A Perfect Life, Right Before the Storm.
My little one, you came into this world on a beautiful April morning with the rising sun. You were a rosy little baby, like a Santorini sunset, the kind you stare at, holding your breath, afraid it might fade too soon, afraid the beauty might disappear from your eyes.
In my joy, I had become a poet. That little child, she was my present and my future, my whole life. The dreams I had finally allowed myself to dream were now reflected in that tiny face that had just entered our family. I would sit for hours and simply watch her, trying to imagine her future. I was afraid even to hold her. They would place her carefully in my arms, and I would sit there, almost sleepless, completely still, terrified she might slip and fall. I felt powerless, unable to handle something so small, so fragile. I wrote her a little poem. It came to me naturally, without effort. I pinned it to her cradle. Little rosy rose of my heart, fluttering like seabirds in the wind, I look into your eyes, where innocence reflects the soul of youthful love. I was not a poet. I never had been. But that little miracle of life, it made me become one. Marina was glowing with happiness. We were all happy. Nina adored her. She was her son's daughter, after all. Before long, joy filled our home. I remember the first time I photographed her and framed it. Even now, in that tiny little face, I saw a piece of myself. For the first time, I loved myself. That child had worked a miracle on me. Marina had changed. My mother had changed. And I believed that everything happening during that time was simply a dream. The truth is, Artemis came into our lives at exactly the right moment. The day we moved into our house in Marusi was another bright day in my life. Marina seemed renewed. Finally, after so long, she had allowed herself to feel again. The only one who struggled with the change was Nina. She had grown used to the child's presence in our home. She'll get used to it, I kept saying, but I insisted she would. When she heard the baby's name, she frowned. "Artemis?" she said about Marina. "You're so obsessed. You didn't even give the child your mother's name?" "But I'm telling you, you're planting seeds from now. One day you'll be in her shoes, and instead of being the one who stamps her foot, you'll be the one being judged." It was the same old scene. I had thought all that belonged to the past, but, unfortunately, history was repeating itself. After that argument, my mother decided that the best solution was for her to come live with us in our new house to help with the baby. We had a few disagreements at first, but honestly, it doesn't matter much. It was something we had grown used to from earlier years. Our new home was beautiful. 2 floors with balconies all around, large reception areas, high ceilings, and a big garden already filled with trees, just waiting for more to be planted. It felt like ours, like our home. The baby was in a good phase. With her tiny laugh, she had transformed all of us. Time passed. The baby became a child, happy, smiling, and loved by everyone. Our daughter. Marina took special care of her. I can't say she always had the time, but she tried. We had many responsibilities, and my mother had assured us she would take care of the child. Everything seemed normal. Strange, perhaps, but Marina didn't react. Every morning, Nina would come to the house before we all left for work. Almost all day long, she would stay there. I think,
Taking on the responsibility of raising the child made her reflect on her own past mistakes. There was a noticeable change in her character. She no longer objected to what we said. She wasn't the same Nina anymore. She knew that if she clashed with my wife, the natural consequence would be for us to take the child away from her, and that was something she didn't even want to imagine. She had limited herself to the demanding role that had been assigned to her. Even the child's name, she had accepted it. She had made her peace with it and didn't want any conflict with Marina. Still, what bothered her was that as a man, I never voiced my opinion. Why hadn't I done that back then?
Artemis's childhood passed quickly. The child grew up carefree. My relationship with Marina at the time was good. I can't deny it. No arguments, no tensions. Of course, I never imagined what would follow after our daughter was born. Living with my mother had played its part too. It was something I never forgave myself for. She had confided it in me. We focused almost entirely on raising the child. At least that was my intention, to not repeat the mistakes our parents had made. As Artemis grew older and entered adolescence, she became a more difficult child. It was expected. Marina was strict with her. I forgave her almost everything. She reminded me of my mother. The grandmother, on the other hand, never scolded her. She only admired her. With Nina around, things were different. Grandmothers see, hear, and speak. She clearly showed her affection for the child. But the truth is, Marina had taken on the hard role, and although I knew it, I never admitted it. As for Artemis, she grew up in the best possible way, for all of us. Her grandmother adored her, and I liked that. At some point, Artemis was in middle school when decided to change her name from Artemis to Diana. The first time I heard it was from a phone call. The phone rang. "Hello? Is Diana there? I'm sorry, you've got the wrong number," I said, and hung up. A moment later, my daughter turned to me. "What do you mean, wrong number, Dad?" "There's no Diana here," I replied. She looked at me, almost surprised. "Dad, they call me Diana at school now." I paused. "Since when did you change your name?" I asked. "Come on, Dad. Artemis sounds too old-fashioned. We decided with my friends that Diana sounds better. That's what everyone calls me at school." I tried to stop it. In the end, she remained Diana. Only her mother still called her Artemis. The child didn't seem bothered, or at least, she didn't show it. Marina's personality was so strong that Diana had become almost a reflection of her. In most situations, in her behavior, her reactions, I saw Marina. Persistent, determined. She always wanted things her way. She would say it was adolescence, but the child had begun to mirror her mother's strongest traits. Fortunately, deep inside, she had inherited my sensitivity and the calm tone with which I faced almost everything. Gratefully, or perhaps unfortunately, she had also taken my romanticism and my tenderness, and from that she found a kind of joy. Life went on peacefully, or so I believed, without arguments, without anything to warn us of the storm that was coming, for all of us. I stopped dictating, and Minnie froze. "Why did you stop?" she asked. "I need to think before I speak carelessly about the next part of my life," I told her. And I meant it. I was mentally exhausted from dictating all these months. In the end, maybe the doctors were right, the ones who insisted that I should dictate everything to Minnie. "And what exactly are you dictating, Mr. Alexiou?" she asked. "My life," I replied, without overthinking my words. A medical council was held. Opinions were divided. I learned the full picture from a well-informed source inside the clinic, someone I'd rather not expose. In general, I found out everything I needed to know, not officially, but through small favors. Even now, that's how things work.
You serve, and you get served in return. But none of that matters. Not anymore. What truly matters is this. Half of the doctors believed that all this was putting additional strain on my already fragile mental state, especially at that stage of my recovery. As a result, they recommended postponing my release. The other half believed that I had unknowingly found a form of self-therapy, something that would ultimately benefit me. The second opinion prevailed. I need to think, I said to many. Exactly about everything I'm going to dictate from here on. Listen carefully and write this down. The storm is coming.